I've been saying that thing like a rhyme earlier. Striving versus thriving, enjoying wholeness. Iwo Akinyoenu is here with us to have a conversation around that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I thought you were only into workout and fitness and all of that.
So so what I do right now is holistic wellness, and that comprises of a transformation of your spirit, your mind, and your body. You know, many times we tend to think that wellness is just about hitting the gym, you know, and just exercising, and that's what it is. But no, it's a 360 dimensional type where it has to do with total transformation, mind, spirit, and body, or you could say spirit, soul, and body. That's how I usually like to put it.
Holistic wellness.
Yes.
Okay. The presence of mind to even consider that holistic wellness, I think, is the #1 problem of people. How do you get to that realization in the first place? Because your realities are too real to ignore. You spend hours in traffic every day. You go hungry, and the prices of food and services, foodstuff, services, and whatever else you have to do, they are too real to ignore. Those things, those factors tend to determine your wholeness, if I can put it that way.
So, you know, I mean, Reverend Sam just left, and the very first time I heard the first law of success was from him, where he said the first law of success says, first within and then without, right? And so whatever we do, however we choose to pursue what we're pursuing, whatever we achieve, everything starts first within us. So if your internal state is in chaos, everything else would be in chaos. It's just a matter of time. So what you need to do, in spite of, I mean, Nigeria itself, it's good enough to want to throw you into that place where there's just something happening back and forth. You are the one who now decides to say, in spite of everything that is happening, it starts inside of me. It starts with the quality of my thoughts. It starts with my values. It starts with, you know, how I see life generally, my perspective. And these things don't happen at once. It happens over time as you grow, as you build, and all of that. And that's how you can then begin to flourish. But, you know, we have the, is it the instant Indomie approach to wanting to get everything fixed here and now. And at every point in time, we begin to get burnout, beginning to get anxious, depression. And that's not to say that the challenges that we face are not real, but it's to say, in spite of the challenges that are coming at you, what's your internal state? That's generally what's going to determine how you respond rather than react, because that's what most people are doing right now.
Does it have to do with, does this initiative or perspective, does it have any gender bias?
No, not at all. It's for everyone, basically. So it doesn't have to do with if you're a man or if you're a woman, but generally, you know, like it's been said, you know, women tend to be more emotional and expressive, but I think that we're all individuals. We have different personalities. We go through different seasons of our lives, you know, per time. So today someone can be quite reserved, and something might happen in their lives that can then turn and change the narrative. So I think it's more about where you are, how aware you are in, you know, your life. Some people are just not aware. So you are in Nigeria, right? And things are happening, but you may not just really be aware of where you are as an individual. And that happens when we're not asking the right questions, when we're not interrogating and having those honest conversations with ourselves. It's very easy for you and I to have a conversation, you know, but it's not very easy for me to sit with myself and begin to ask myself, what is not happening well?
And
what can I do better?
And that needs to happen.
It has to happen. And that happens in the place of stillness, when you're quiet, when you're listening. But a lot of people are not there.
It's not easy. See, wait, let me tell you why. Wait, hold on first. So there's someone sitting, okay, I just want to be still. And then you know what psychology says about a woman's mind. Everything is connected to everything. I saw a comedy skit yesterday. I'd seen it before. I saw it again yesterday or the day before yesterday, where this fellow was saying that, you know, had a man's brain model and a woman's brain model, and it goes to the brain model of the man. It says everything is compartmentalized in a box, you know, like you go to safety boxes and in the banks, right? And that the man, you know, can go there and pick this and return them carefully without one touching the other. But when you go to a woman's mind, everything is connected to everything, you know, so stillness might be difficult. I mean, even in her most intimate moments, she's checking whether or not there's still salt in the house.
So, you know, the fact that she is at that you know, where she is at that point in time does not necessarily mean she cannot learn to be still, because stillness is something that you learn to practice, and then over time it becomes part of you. And the more you do it, the more you see the benefits, the more you want to always just tune in, create those rhythms where, you know, in the morning I sit still, I listen in, I ask questions, I notice how I'm feeling, you know, I decide how I want my day to go. Now, one of the things we must also realize is that we are all energy centers. We carry energy levels. I remember there was a particular day my elder sister said, you know, when she goes to a particular place, there's a lady who emits so much negative energy. And I can tell you that if you check her life, she probably is bitter, angry, stressed, worked up, and she may not even know that she has carried so much of that into her. Now she's dispersing that energy. So if you, as someone who has not decided to ensure that they carry that kind of positive energy, then you allow somebody's negativity to drown you. And then you can take that up and that becomes your reality. Take, for instance, somebody who's working in a toxic environment. Now, you have to continue to work there, but you can decide to put those systems in place to ensure that this toxicity will not get to me. That's your decision. That's what, and that doesn't happen by reacting. It happens by asking questions. What are the things that trigger me here? What are the things that, you know, that I would like to see, you know, differently? Change your perspective. Okay, I may not like the way my boss talks, but I'm grateful that I have a boss and I have jobs. Some people don't have jobs, right? That's already rewiring your brain, because your brain never knows what to think. You feed it what it thinks, and whatever you feed over time, it gives back to you. So if you keep sending negative signals to your brain, you keep, you know, going through that cycle, then over time you begin to just dish out like garbage in, garbage out. You just dish out negativity, and it's just, you know, in a very high dose and in a very high level. So at the end of the day, we are the ones who would learn to stop, listen, take inventory, ask those questions. What don't you like? What do you want to become? And then, okay, right now, there's a whole lot of chaos in my life. That's the place where you start. It's the place of awareness. You are aware of what is happening. You are taking stock. And another thing not to do is to be judgmental, because your brain will judge you when you give it that, you feed that to it. So you are aware, okay, for example, oh, I can get emotionally worked up when the children are jumping all over the place. But then, okay, how can I rewire this? I'm grateful that I have children. Children will play anyway. This is who they are. I would learn to accept it, and then I will learn to have those conversations that can help me channel the energies and find creative ways to get them to get the things that they're doing. Is that to say that they will not stop shouting, or they will stop shouting? No, they won't stop shouting because they're children. So when you change the narrative on what you're telling your brain, when your brain begins to get that new narrative, then you begin to enjoy the positivity, the positive energy, the calmness, the stillness, and then it turns out into the outputs, all that you do. But many times we wait and we suck it in, and then we begin to react. But that's not how it's supposed to be. It's first within and then without.
Now, I'm still going to stay on that same topic of intrapersonal communication, because many people cannot do it. I was still talking to a 25-year-old yesterday, and I was saying, look, I can sense that you are at dissonance with yourself. And there are many people right now watching you and listening to you. They haven't quite aligned with themselves. And it's a difficult decision, the conversation to have. By that I mean, okay, so there is who you are, and then, but you are also afraid to meet the real you. So it kind of, unbalances the scale, so to speak. I go back to that comedy skit. You're going to have to speak to it. The man said that in a man's mind, there is a box that they call the box of nothing. So it's easy for a man to say, I just want to be, I don't want to think about anything. And maybe the wife goes and says, what's on your mind? I said, and the man says, nothing. Of course, the woman doesn't believe it. Like, how is it possible to think about nothing? That it's not possible for a woman, so it's not, it's unimaginable, for a woman to think that a man will just sit down and he's thinking about nothing. So speak to these two, difficult dynamics of aligning yourself, but before which you have to get to the place of thinking about nothing and then arranging stuff in your mind.
Okay, so honestly, even thinking about nothing, that itself, it's a discipline, really, because you have to come to that point where you decide that I'm just going to, keep that open space.
Do you think a woman can do that?
Yes, we can.
Do you do that?
Yes, I do.
Empty space, nothing, the box of nothing.
So for me, what I do is I love to listen to music, or maybe because of my background. So in those times where I want to tune in, for example, I had that moment yesterday. I just put music in, rather put music on, and then I choose to listen to, if there are lyrics, I'm listening to every word. So I'm not thinking anything outside the music. So I'm listening to every word. If it's just instrumental, I'm paying attention to every bit, every chord, everything that the music is playing. I tune my mind to it. So that's how so of course, when you say nothing, it's not like, oh, it's emptiness, right? Because we really cannot, there's no vacuum really in life, but you are allowing yourself to tune into what can nourish your mind, your spirit, and your soul. So in that place, that's where you begin to get aha moments, inspiration. That's when you begin to get creative ideas, but a lot of us don't know how to. And, I had the opportunity to facilitate for an organization, and we did like a little exercise. So I told everyone, bring out your phone. So they brought out your phone. Now put on your camera and face it to you. Now look at yourself. And if your soul had one thing that it was going to scream at you, what would it say? So everyone did the exercise, and then later I decided to ask for feedback. And there was a guy who raised his hand and said, I was looking at myself and I couldn't hear anything. Like, it was just noise. And then he said, please, what can I do? And that's where a lot of people are. There is so much noise and we do not even realize. And then he was like, what am I going to do? Then I said to him, the first thing is that you have acknowledged now that when you look at yourself, it's noise. So you now have to go back and begin to ask yourself this question: what is occupying my head, my space? What is screaming at me right now? What's the noise about? And then he actually said, I want to learn how to be still. So I just gave him a few tips, things to do, and he was really grateful, right? So the truth of the matter is, we must, at every point now, you must come back to have dialogues. My other sister, she taught me something. She would say, oh, sometimes, because I was at her home one day, some years ago, and then she told someone, oh, I'm having a meeting. And then I said to her, but there's no meeting. And she says, oh, I have a meeting with myself. I schedule meetings with myself. And I was like, oh, really? She said, yeah. I said, to do what? I mean, to think, to be introspective, to check where I am, against where I'm going. So she has those meetings with herself. So I decided to schedule it. And my children, they got back from school yesterday. I told the first one, please, guys, Mommy is not going to be available for the next 1 hour. tea for things, right? And they were able to honor it. So many times we assume that people know that we need space. No, when you need to create that time, that sanctuary, that space for yourself to come back, introspect, let the world know this is the time, and do it politely. Don't send out negative energies anywhere, right? Because anything you send out, it will come back to you. So if you're sending out negative energy, it will come back to you. And you are the energy center yourself. The good book says, as you think in your heart, so you are. So if you're constantly focusing on negative thoughts, oh, by the way, many people do not realize, it will be surprising to know that 80 to 90% of health issues are directly linked to our emotional state. I just finished reading a book, Deadly Emotions by Dr. Don Colbert, and it was startling, the research that was made, how the emotional state of people actually kills faster, especially when they go through trauma, when they go through unexpected life twists and turns. A lot of people are not just able to leave that emotional space or baggage, and the body over time will tell. So some people today are suffering health issues probably because of trauma or things that have happened in their past, maybe the death of a loved one, maybe the loss of a job, maybe, some relational, breakdown, and things that were not resolved, and they have carried this kind of resentment for such a long, long time, and they're not even realizing that this is having a negative effect on them. So it's very important.
These emotions things that you just talked about, I think you need to decrypt a number of things about it, particularly unforgiveness and trauma, unforgiveness, trauma, and gratitude. Let me not play only on negative emotions. Yeah. The role of unforgiveness on our general well-being, how it produces bad energy and how it produces lack of productivity in our lives, trauma that people hold on to, not because they want to, but because they just have to. And then how gratitude, helps us to generate any kind of energy around us.
So the first thing I'll say is, just take a quick look at your life and, ask yourself, am I really happy where I am, with the state I am, my heart, my mind? You will know where you are. It's not something that it's hard. You just would know that there's something that's missing, or you feel that, oh, I'm healed, or I'm in a healing process and all, right? If you have been betrayed, if you have suffered any hurt or pain, permit me to say that I'm very sorry for what and who offended you. But you see, you actually do have a choice to change the narrative. Now, with trauma and with unforgiveness, when you do not heal from them, what happens is that you bleed on other people who did not cause it. So it's important that if you've not healed from trauma or unforgiveness, if you're a spouse, if you're a mother or a father, if you have other colleagues, things will continue to trigger you that will cause you to bleed on your children, your spouse, your colleagues, people that don't know what happened. So you really need to ask yourself this question: am I still bleeding? Am I still hurting? Is there anything that I have just thrown aside and not dealt with? And the truth of the matter is, the healing process can also be messy. Why? Because you have to go back to that same thing that you do not want to confront, and you have to confront it. So for example, when somebody breaks their legs and they need to get a surgery done, it would be opened up. You will have to go to see the doctor. It's going to be painful. He will need to tear it out because the bones are probably out of shape and it needs to be, fixed. That process is painful. I mean, I had to go through cesarean section 4 times. It was painful. But today, when I see the children, I am always, always grateful So when you allow yourself to go through that pain, not because you want to hate on the person, but because you really have to heal from within, then you can begin to thrive, spirit, soul, and body.
What if the fellow doesn't even know that they're in that space?
So that's why you have to be introspective. Now, one thing about unforgiveness and trauma is that you will always get triggered when somebody will just make a statement
or
and
do
you
something.
Will flare up. That's a sign that there's either trauma there or there's unforgiveness. Whenever you find yourself being triggered, just, oh, she said this, then that's something you need to deal with. So you go back and ask yourself, why was I triggered? When you sit down, you might notice that, oh, when I was a child, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, somebody said this to me, and I've held on to it. I've not been able to process it and let it go. So these are things that we must ask ourselves this question, because right now, this new generation with mental health breakdown and stuff, they've not really gone through a lot, but I feel like, they have to learn emotional resilience, right? Rather than just running away. When you want to build emotional resilience, you don't run away, you grow through every phase and every stage, and it is a process. So if you sabotage the process of healing, maybe as a single, when you get married, it's going to show up.
Okay. Now, it's not easy to see what is working when many other things are not working.
I agree.
You talked about, being thankful for a job, even though it's a job you don't want. You being thankful for having a boss, even though the boss could be toxic and also one bleeding on you and all of that. Gratitude is difficult when things aren't going our way, right?
Yes, it is. But you see, gratitude, like they say, permit me to just put some rhyme in here. Gratitude takes you to new altitudes, and actually that is very true. Gratitude shifts your perspective, and gratitude opens you up to receive more, in life, right? So when you are always thankful, I literally had an experience yesterday. Something happened, and I was almost going through the route of complaining, and I said, nope, I'm not going to do that. I will be thankful because, number one, I have a family member. Number two, we're talking right now. Number three, it's really not that bad, right? It's just that I have expectations that were not met, and so I was wanting to rub that expectation on someone else, right? So you can always, at every point in time, ask yourself, what is one thing I can be grateful for in this situation? Now let me ask you, jam question. What is one thing you can be grateful for in Nigeria? Right, okay, so if you don't have any, I'll tell you, you're watching me right now and you're learning how to become mindful and whole from within. So that's something to be grateful for, really. So it's not always a grand thing. Always look for anything in every situation where you get triggered. Just ask yourself, what one thing can I truly be grateful for? You wake up every morning, I can breathe. Some people are in the hospital and they have gas and they're paying for oxygen, right? You are not paying for air. Air is free. What one thing can I be grateful for? I have children. They can be running all over the place and driving me crazy, but I'm grateful that I have children because there are people who have stayed 25 years still looking for children. So when you shift that narrative and that perspective, your brain begins to open up to opportunities, open up to blessings, open up to things that you never thought, was possible. Things just begin to open up. You begin to impact and influence everyone around you positively. And I think that's something that, can help. And trust me, it's not going to be breezy and, oh, I just wake up and everything is da-da-da-da-da. There are days that you would be punched. There are days that would be ugly. But remember, just stay grateful, practice awareness, be still, ask yourself, have those conversations with yourself, and you'll be amazed.
I want us to emphasize it, and here is why. Watching us right now, the issues are so real, so strong. Children are going into the university, hundreds of thousands of naira, or hundreds of or thousands of dollars to send the child to university, whether within Nigeria or abroad. Electricity is this. I mean, the issues are so real.
Indeed.
I just got back yesterday, and I woke up this morning, all 4 tires deflated. So the issues are real, too real to ignore. And so it's difficult, it should be difficult for anyone, you would imagine, to imagine that the most trivial of these things that you're saying have the capacity to reverse those real realities, if I can put it that way.
Indeed. But you see, at the end of the day, it starts and it stops with you. And that's one reality and one truth we must all accept. I come out in the morning and my 4 tires are deflated. What a day. But I'm grateful that I still have a car. I'm grateful that I can still drive, right? I mean, we must see, because the truth of the matter is there is something that is worse than what you're experiencing. So if we take that narrative from today to say, whatever I'm experiencing, there's someone out there that is experiencing 10 times worse than what my situation is, I think it will help us to shift the narrative to learning to be more, to stay in a place of gratitude, much more than seeing the problems. And remember, whatever you magnify is what will be your outcome and your experience. So if you keep magnifying the negativity of the country, you keep magnifying the negativity of traffic, you keep magnifying everything that is negative, then your whole life and your whole experience will constantly stay in the negative. So while there is a negative, you know, the negative and positive, why not tilt towards the positive so that your outcomes would also be positive as well? It's not easy, truth be told. And I must tell you, I have suffered, you know, I was stuck in an emotional rut for such a long time. And I finally just came to that point where it was like, you know what? This has to stop. This has to change. So if other people can do it, then you certainly can do it, because God has wired you that way, but it would take a bit of training. Imagine you just started to exercise today for the first time. You know, it would take about 30 days to gain strength. So if you're starting this kind of thing, understand that you're going to have the blue days, you're going to have those days that you just wake up, you're not in the mood to say thank you. It's okay, but don't stay in the negative. Always change the narrative.
I'd like you to speak for 30 seconds about environmental wellness. I saw a short video one day of a guy just saying that no matter what somebody is going through, if someone has a bad mood, toxic, whatever, that the person should go and clean his room.
Okay, so yeah, so I've had a practice for over years, thanks to my mom. I realized that every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is to lay my bed. I can say that, you know, that it's just something it does to your mind. Just having that mindset of choosing to be clean and neat. You know, it's I don't know, I cannot explain, because there was a story of one naval guy who said, oh, always, when you wake up the first thing in the morning, make your bed. There's some psychological, I probably will go and do more research about it, but there's just something that it does to you and your mind. And I think that, you know, it's something that people should learn to do.
As you said, it's a choice to make all the way. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Pleasure.
You're working here and is a holistic wellness practitioner. We appreciate your time today.
You.
And that's been Sunrise today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your Saturday morning. Hope it wasn't too boring. Hope it was informational and transformative for you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. See you next week.